But you know what happened? Well, like I said, there were what we call them the robber barons, the people the steel companies, the oil companies that made all the money. And back in the 1800s and the early 1900s, if you worked for these people and you were killed, your family got, not killed, but if you died in an accident, your family had no money, you had no legal recourse, you just died. That was it. And there was nobody in the government looking out for folks in situations like this. So there was a thing called the Dust Bowl. Did you guys hear about that?
Yeah.
The Dust Bowl? So the Dust Bowl was a drought that happened in the 1920s, I think. And it was from over-farming, bad agricultural practices by, again, the people making all the money. So who was impacted by that? The wealthy people? No. It was all the poor farmers, and so there was a huge dust bowl, and all of what they called the Okies, which was a very, very derogatory term, they moved out west to go pick fruit. So this whole thing is about riding the rails, basically to go pick fruit in California. And when they made it to California, there was a very anti-immigrant way of thinking. Sound familiar? It's always been there. It just depends. The skin color changes, the races change, but it's always been there. There's always a new group of people for the power people to hate. And so Woody was the voice of the downtrodden and the people that didn't have a voice. And so really that's kind of a fun, romanticized song about a very serious issue. So, you guys want to do the Roll Columbia Roll? Roll on Columbia? So this one's cool. I sing this one a lot. There's a lot that's interesting about this song. So before the dams, the reason, well, first of all, power has always been really cheap in the Northwest because we have all the hydroelectric dams. That's what started it. Before those dams came in, the only people that had electricity were the wealthy people in the cities, because the electrical companies charged extra money to bring it out to the country. So your average person, again, couldn't get electricity. So even though Woody Guthrie was anti-government, they called him a communist, which in the United States is a really big deal. If you're a presidential candidate and they call you a communist, you can't be the president. You know what I mean? It's a way of throwing them off the track. So he was very anti-government. He was often at odds. He was red listed, which meant he couldn't get a job. So why did he take the job writing songs for the U.S. government?
That's sweet.
He did because he believed that in this particular instance, the government was employing the common men, and by bringing power to everybody, they were taking care of the people, and he wanted to help that cause along. So he was willing to put his anti-government stance on the back burner to write songs for the government.
We talked about yesterday the metaphor of turning darkness to dawn. Your power is turning our darkness till dawn. What do you think about that line? How do you interpret that?
Well, I think he's talking about progress, because I think he is thinking idealistically that, in doing that, the average American will be lifted up. I think he really believed in the middle class, which I believe in too. I still believe that the core value of this country is in the middle class. If you study international politics and you look at different governments across the world, like when I was in Russia for a month and a half, or when I go over to Northern Europe, there are many, many different ways to run a country. But what we have done in this country that has worked is allowed the average person to have a chance at being successful. And that really was true for a long time. It's harder now. And so I think he really was thinking, like, these folks that never had a chance are going to have a chance. It's going to be a new dawn. So I think that's the deeper metaphor for the power. Interesting little dynamic on this song. We're doing a big event at Benaroya Hall on May 26th. And I wanted to get Sherman Alexie, who's a very famous author in the Northwest. I wanted to get him to, he's a Native American. I wanted him to do a counterpoint, because guess what happened when they built the Grand Coulee Dam? They displaced all the Native American hunting and fishing lands. So in doing this great thing for much of the country, they destroyed a culture's heritage. These things happen, right? This is the nature of progress.
Is he coming?
He wouldn't do it. He didn't want to do it because he felt, you know, interestingly enough, even though Woody was the voice of the downtrodden, a lot of folks in the Native American community feel like he didn't have, you know, the insight and wasn't looking out for them, which is a totally justifiable, you know. So, you guys